What does it mean to live creatively? Not just in what you make, but how you move, and how you dress, and how you build your world.
What does it mean to feel at home in your space, in your skin, in your purpose?
Welcome to The Maroon Life, our lives in full color, a podcast where we explore the art of creative living, from the way we style our homes to the stories we wear on our backs.
We're your co-hosts, Adrian Franks,
Nicole A. Taylor.
Two lifelong creators, curators, and culture seekers on a mission to make space for freedom, joy, and design that speaks.
We tap into soulful conversations about joy, design, self-expression, home renovation, and everything in between.
Well, we're recording, so we can just talk natural, then we just move in. I know today has been one of those kind of crazy days, and we here on a Friday. How you doing, Nicole?
It's really cold outside.
Very cold, very cold.
And I gotta be honest, it's been just like a cloud of like weird energy floating throughout New York City for the last week plus, wouldn't you say?
I don't think it's a New York problem. I think that's a that's a universal problem, apparently, because the world seems to be at a weird inflection point.
Yeah, I think it's been almost a week since the strikes in Minnesota, really in Minneapolis, excuse me. Well, you've had strikes really all over the U.S. And on top of like this crazy snowstorm has blanketed much of the U.S. So just for me, just like looking at the news, I did not consume a lot of social media. Actually, I'm coming off a 20-day social media fast.
You jumping back on the platform, right?
Yeah.
How's that fast? Tell me about it.
Fast was, I would say it gives you clarity. It just shows you when you pop back on how much noise. I feel like my brain wasn't bouncing all around.
Mm-hmm.
So it felt good to be off of, I took social media off of my phone.
Oh, that's a good thing.
Yeah. So I could only access, and I did check from time to time from my computer, which is checking social media from your computer. Instagram is like, it's the clunkiest thing. So it was good. But I will say though, I feel like I've been in like kind of this weird days of thinking about what I do and how I move in my home and outside of my home, and what's happening with ICE and the current current presidential I don't even know. I can't even say presidential.
Well, the politics around our administration.
Right. I can't even say presidential situation because it ain't even presidential with the current political climate that we have. So, I mean, listen, I know that we had been talking about coming back doing this episode. Our next episode was going to be all about like how the host stay fill in the blank.
Yeah, that would been kind of a little blind, right?
Yeah, I was like, I text you and I was...
And lacks empathy to a certain degree.
Yeah, I text you and I was like, yo.
We got to talk. Yeah,
we need to talk about what's happening now and how our lives and the lives that we've built both mentally and physically, like what does that mean? What does that mean in our home? And what does that mean in our mind and our larger community? I mean,
yeah, if you're, listening, obviously you know what's going on out in the world and things are real. And I mean, everything from like, economic unrest or uncertainty to markets being a little weird, the social, political environment is obviously red hot fire to, a lot of things that happen internationally. But, it's okay if you're not feeling, cool about this. Even if it's not directly happening to you, it's definitely happening all around you. So, I think the goal of this episode really to just kind of let people know that it's okay to feel not okay. And let's talk about how do you work through those things. I think that's more or less what we want to do here, because we know that, people right now everywhere is feeling this. It's almost kind of like either it's really bothering you really, really bad, or you're kind of like an ostrich in the sand and you're just trying to like completely ignore it, or you're somewhere in between. But either way, it is affecting you whether you want to believe this or not. And I think the conversation that, me and you have all the time, Nicole, that's kind of natural. But I do think, this conversation that we're going to have, hopefully it can bring a little resolve for people and give them like some kind of blueprint to move forward because, yeah, it's a little rough.
Yeah, and I will say two things. We're recording this on January 30th, 2026, and there's a national strike that's happening where people are closed, restaurants are closed, businesses are closed, in some cases schools are closed, in solidarity with the people in Minneapolis, in solidarity with all of ICE being vicious and nasty. And I want to just say this other thing is that, we're working this out in real time too. So some of the things that we're saying, it's things that Adrian and I talk about all the time, like for years. And there's also some things that we've been working through the past week. So you can take this podcast as a meditation. You could take it as something that you can share with somebody else if you hear a good point. And you can take it as, hey, we working through our own thoughts. But we radical. I'm just going to start with that too. I mean, we are a household.
We're not obvious hoteps.
No, we're
right?
not obvious hoteps.
I mean, if that's what y'all want to call it,
But we are about it. I mean, listen. You got to talk about, too, like you have produced a lot of political artwork.
Well, I don't consider it political artwork. I consider it is a moment in time. I'm an artist and it's feelings that I have, right? That has a political lens to it. Because I do study a lot of political designs, right? Where you're talking about like some of the posters from like the whole propaganda design movement back in the early 1900s to even some of the things you would see in like Dada to like even the things you would see that like an Emory Douglas produced for the Panthers. But, a lot of my aesthetic kind of naturally matches that. But me as an artist and a designer, I try to combine both of those worlds to tell a message, to tell a story, to actually remind people of what's going on, especially in today's world of digital and just social. It's very easy to forget because things change so much. I often tell you that the best knowledge is things that are either printed with a certain type of intent or created with a certain kind of intent, like a book or a poster or a zine, because those things take some time to think about and you have to craft it. But in today's world, things move so fast, so you kind of got to be able to move with it. So I produce a lot of different, you would say political art. That's fine. I try not to say that because there are political artists who live this every single day, and I don't want to marginalize their work. That said, there have been bodies of work I created from everything around the freedom riders to things pertaining to police brutality as it pertains to specifically Black people. And now some of the work I've been working on is definitely speaking broader to the current tone. And some of those works has been highlighted in traveling shows, reading rooms, and even printed things like books, because we love books in this household. So yes, I have been working through those type of designs.
And I should tell people
projects.
too, that we've done intros and we have a little intro at the top of this.
Like just Google us.
But one of the things I don't think is out there in Google land, I started my professional career as a organizer, as a trained organizer.
Well, you study community health.
My degree from Clark Atlanta University is in community health education. I always thought that I would have a master's in public health and would be doing a bunch of community work. And I did. So, I worked for Emory, Community Outreach and Partnership Center. And more specifically, when I came to Brooklyn, the first jobs I had in Brooklyn were actually in environmental and food justice work. So when I speak and how I move and how I live and who we both are is rooted in like the foundation of justice, of power to Black people, power to not only Black people, to all people.
So let's just kind of talk. What does it mean to live well when things just keep changing, when there's this uncertain times or what they call a market uncertainty going on?
I think it means that you lean into routines and rituals that ground you.
Right.
Leaning into things that you do every day that give you peace or moments of peace, or either figuring out what those things are and start implementing it. For me, I probably said this a million times, but I have to say it again. Our whole entire house, we begin the morning with music.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
No
sure our neighbors
podcasts,
don't like it. No podcast,
no
no
Instagrams,
TV.
music.
No. We start our morning with music.
Garvey loves Bad Bunny.
Yeah, Garvey likes to start. Sometimes he'll pick the music, but even when you guys have music on up here, when I'm in the bathroom getting ready, I always play Alice Coltrane.
Right.
I have an Alice Coltrane mix. The other thing that I do every day is I burn an incense. It's like the fire, the smell is a beautiful way to like set an intention. So I start the day with that. And if I'm working from home and I'm starting to feel stressed, even now we have an incense going because I'm like, you know what? I need to just kind of steady the room. So yeah, that's two things. I said two things, two actual things that I do, but the broader thing is rituals and routines. What is a ritual or routine that you do every day that kind of helps you when the world is unsteady, like right now?
Well, I wake up every day and I meditate. Some people say it's praying. I say meditate because it's the same thing. I have to do that, right? Water. It's very important. I think a lot of us, especially of a certain age, we forget to drink our water. Water is the most important element on the planet. Without that, as we know, you don't really have life as we know it, right? Water is important. And I try to drink, a good two cups before I drink coffee. Coffee is big for me, right? Like, on the weekends, everything revolves around coffee, whether it's a French press or something with like a quick
Every day
shot.
we have to get our coffee.
Yeah. Where I drink it here, mostly here or anywhere else. I do. That's kind of like my routine. But the music, big part of that. And really just thinking about like what kind of hat I'm going to wear. Cause I don't have hair, but the hat is pretty important because it kind of matches my fit,
That's funny about rituals and routines when you say a hat. I can tell you one of the things that I haven't done since we moved back to New York City is for years. 15 plus years, I picked out my clothes for the week.
Yeah, I've never done that, but I thought it was so.
I picked out my clothes for the week. So I would have like 5 to 7 outfits ready to lay out. I think it's a space thing now. But I pick out my clothes because that means I don't have to worry about that. So that always kept me steady, right? It gave me more time, but it was a ritual and a routine that I did. And I always did it on Sundays. So maybe I need to get back to that.
Do you think, okay, and that's great. And, I think establishing overall rituals are kind of great. But what do you think your rituals now have kind of shifted because of what's going on in society? Because, sometimes you go to bed thinking about things you saw on Instagram or the news. Does that kind of interrupt with your morning routine or whatever that routine may be? Like the politics of the day or the news cycles or just even some of the things you may be getting from the community. Like you talked about a lot about the chefs and some of the things they've been dealing with their restaurants. Does that kind of change up your routine a little bit?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I've been doing this week and actually today is some of my dearest friends who own restaurants who so happen to be immigrants themselves, and most of them employ, undocumented folks or immigrants. I check on them, literally just say, hey, just checking on you with a heart. And I'm not expecting a long text message back like, oh, it's been a rough day, but just sending a person, I'm checking on you. Text can be really good. Another thing, I have probably like less than 5 friends that we literally exchange gospel songs or just music or every single day I pick a quote. I have like a stack of quote meditation cards. We pull them, the 3 of us, me, you, and Garvey pull them, but I'll share them with a few friends when the spirit moves me. So I think that that's something I've been doubling down on, just trying to remember to check in on people.
Yeah, I think that is vitally important. Me and you talked about this a while ago. It was just even on offline as well. Checking on people, especially right now, I think is even more important. I think it's even bigger to just pick up the phone and call people, right?
Yeah.
Because, sometimes these text messages can kind of be taken out of context, and, the communication around it could just not be fully understood by everybody, because everybody read things differently, they interpret things differently. But I've been in the habit of actually calling people. Now, some people, when you call them, the first thing they think is must be
Something's
something
wrong.
wrong, because why are you calling me, right? When you picked up the phone back in the days, you called just for any random thing. So I do think calling people has been something that I've been incorporated as like a ritual. It may not necessarily be my morning ritual, but it's a ritual I try to do, weekly. Like, I try to make sure I call my family, my nucleus family that I started from, right? All my siblings and my mom. And then I try to think about the remaining aunts. And then, okay, the next tier would be friends, that lifelong friends that are more like family members. And then you got colleagues. But overall, I think calling people versus sending a text or jumping in the group chat, 'cause everybody got a group chat, right? It's a human thing to do. Sometimes text messages can't communicate when you hear somebody's voice. Hearing a person's voice can say a lot without saying a lot. You can almost understand something going on with this person, and they're not saying anything.
Sure.
And it leads you to start asking certain questions. So I think that's huge.
So you think you've been doing that more since in the last month? I mean, listen, we've been dealing with a lot of political unrest and uneasiness and uncertainty for the last year at this point.
Yeah.
But do you think the whole month of January you've been doing that a bit more?
I actually been doing it more now, probably since October.
Okay.
Probably around about my birthday, right? Just because I just think I purposely decided, like, I just want to be more human. And it's something about the sound of a human's voice is a little bit more rewarding than just somebody sending a random text. And like I said, text can be a little, I don't know, a little too ambiguous. I mean, I know a lot of people may send voice notes, which I actually think are kind of cool, right? Voice notes are things that you can
I
just
only
send.
get that word from like the voice note queen and the person I have the a back and forth voice note conversation with every day is Osai Enderlin. Literally, that's how we communicate. We don't save them. We don't keep them. I notice when I send you voice notes, though, you keep them.
I got all my voice notes saved.
Yeah, no, she and I go back and forth every single day with voice notes. And I think it's super important that you have friends that you can voice note, because I mean, hearing someone's voice, you can sometimes hear the anxiety or the happiness or the relief in a person's voice. But there are friends that I straight up talk to on the phone. Like, I don't text. Like my dearest friend Reginald, if I text him, he's gonna pick up the phone. If I text him and say, "Hey, you in DC? You in Atlanta?" He's not gonna respond saying yay or nay. He's gonna call me back to say yeah. So I think it's really important, and the friends that you haven't talked to in a long time that like to talk on the phone, pick up the phone. Or the friend that you text all the time,
Call 'em.
maybe switch it up and call them.
Or send them a voice note.
Yes, I like that.
So thinking about what's going on with, immigration, customs enforcement. We live here in New York. This is an immigrant town. How are you feeling about what's going on? And, you coping with all of these things? Because, we have a lot of different immigrant friends. We have, people who come by and serve as our home are immigrants. We got friends who run businesses that are immigrants. We got, people who may not be immigrants. They probably look like they're not, quote unquote, from America, but they are technically citizens of the United States. And for me, I don't care about any one of those labels because it's about humanity. How are you feeling about all of these different things going on?
Well, I can just run through like my literally personal friend business circle, people I have to interact with, from my cleaning lady to husbands of friends, babysitters. I know so many people in my circle who are immigrants, and I'm not just talking about people who are from Mexico or people. I'm talking about Caribbean. I'm talking about Asian.
Yeah. Africa as a continent.
I'm talking about people who have been here for 20, 30 years, who have a green card. I'm talking about people who are naturalized or people who are undocumented. So how I feel is fearful for them. Like fearful for them. Because all these people that I'm thinking about in my mind, they're people that I admire. They're people who, without them, I wouldn't be able to do the things that I need to do. They are people who work really hard for their families.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
There are people who have sacrificed for other people and their own families to live their dreams. So when I think about it, it affects me. I am definitely not going to be like, ain't my problem. It is my problem. Because, I mean, it could easily, what we see in Minneapolis.
Well, it has happened and it will happen.
Yeah, it could come to our back doors just like that. That is not lost on me. So how it makes me feel, it makes me feel uneasy. I mean, listen, I have a son who he definitely can tell you who ICE is. He said they're not good guys.
Yeah.
He can tell you who Trump is. He can tell you what a strike is. He can tell you what a protest is. So when I see all these things happening around me, I know that it's not good, not only for America, it ain't good for my personal community and the larger community.
Yeah, I look at myself, when I go through these type of things, I just produce art because as a creative and an artist, that's how I express myself, right? It's one thing to get on and have a whole thesis, written up, kind of like point of view on it. But for me, it's about coming up with like ideas, visual ideas. And, I can't express enough that me as a designer artist, I think it is important that if you have that talent, that you should use that to talk about what's going on. It documents the time. Most artists don't have that. And I understand that. That's not their job to do that. But for those who have that, it makes me feel a certain way. To your point, we have friends, we have relatives, we have a lot of people that are close family who are all getting affected by this. The children sometimes feel like they can't go to school. We got, even like the nanny, just babysitters. I mean, you got to think about it. What if they're out with your kid one day and they get rolled up on with Department of Homeland Security, ICE, basically messing with them, right? You got to think about all these different things. And beyond that, you are seeing things in the news cycle that are affecting humans. Because that's the one thing I don't want to get lost here, that, we're affecting humans, that we're treating humans as if they're not humans.
And
to rip families apart, to rip communities apart, to rip friendships apart, it's not a cool thing. And it affects me in that way. And I always try to figure out, like, how do I cope? I talk about it with people and I create art.
And I would say professionally, how it's affected me is I'm in the middle literally of finishing up a story, a chef profile. And it's a very high profile chef who was dropping some hints during the interview that he wanted to talk about it, and I didn't explore it. And then my editor sent me an article that he's being interviewed talking about the effects
Right.
of strikes on restaurant culture forever. And I think what he said, honestly, I think it was spot on. So I kind of had to like pause and start to rewrite some graphs and kind of not say change the tone of the story, but make sure that his voice on that matter shines through. And I'm working on in 2 days, I am supposed to turn in my manuscript for my cookbook. And as you know, cookbook that's tentatively titled the Maroon House Cookbook. And it is hard to switch from thinking and writing about ICE
Or just the political environment in general.
and the political environment, and going to editing recipes. Yeah, my brain doesn't work like that. I am an empath. I know that for sure. So it's hard to switch. So all of this has affected my workflow.
While I am not an empath, doesn't mean I don't understand empathy and this idea of humanity. I can truly say working, and you guys don't need to know where I work at. That's between me and Nicole and everybody that knows me. But even my, professional job with other creatives, the group of guys I work with, we do talk about this. I must say that I got a creative manager that's a pretty cool guy. He does acknowledge what's going on. He thank us from still showing up and doing the work, but he said it wouldn't be it wouldn't be above him to like not talk about what's going on. Like it's just a human thing to do, to get on Zoom calls all day and not acknowledge what's going on. Well, that'd be kind of wrong. So I give him credit for that. I do see a trend in a lot of corporations, companies across the board that are, eerily silent of what's going on. But more so, it's not so much as they got to make these political statements. If nothing else, give assurance to your workers, the people that work for you, who are showing up every day and producing either products or services that you sell to the larger public, and assure them that, hey, we're listening, we're making sure that you guys are okay and things of that nature. And I noticed that's been kind of lacking from corporate culture, and I do think that's been playing out a lot. Not even even beyond the walls of any company. That a lot of companies are just eerily silent. Listen. But it would be great though that these companies look at their employees as not just assets, but real humans, and check on them every so often.
Yeah, I'm curious if you are listening and you work in corporate America. Ping us, let us know. Has your company talked specifically about what is happening politically? Have they said if you need to take a mental health day, do that? I'm just curious because I do know that during COVID and when there were uprisings, people did that.
Yeah.
But people are a little quiet now. I know I ran into another mom from our school today who is a creative, and we were talking about creative people at this time, and everybody's been saying this to me. I did this Instagram post basically saying, I'm tired. I'm sick. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. And in the words of Fannie Lou Hamer. But I also said I keep going. And posting that affirmed what I already was doing, is that I have to keep going because that is what Black Americans have done for generation after generation. And that is to keep going and to keep producing art.
Yeah, you're right. We do got to keep going because that's what our grandparents did. That's what our parents have done. That's what our ancestors have always done. They just kept it going. Looking for creative inspiration? Graphite Pro Radio explores the intersection of design, culture, and innovation, one conversation at a time. Join us for deep dives into the creative process and game-changing ideas. Start listening today. Let's talk about friend circles. How do you feel like your friend circles right now with everything that's going on in the world? And I know you're part of some chat groups. You're part of a few together. Yeah. I know you're part of some that are separate.
Maybe like one.
But
maybe two.
Whatever the case may be, like it don't have to be chat groups, but just, how has your friend circles been in terms of politics? Have y'all been discussing politics? Yeah. Have y'all been discussing how to get through all of this stuff, how to cope, exchanging ideas? Tell me about that.
Well, some of my friend circles, I have what I call food friends.
Yep.
People who are my friends, meaning I've broken bread with them several times. They've been at my house or I've been at their house. People are not just colleagues that I see at events, but I would say with my food friends, we 100% have talked about it. There are a lot of restaurants now that participated in the strikes today, and some who didn't. So a lot of my conversations have been around, what do we think? Is this going to work? Should people be doing that? But also our conversations have been this economy is shitty.
Yeah.
And media period has imploded, and it is hard to get jobs now. It is really slow. It's dry as a bone out here. And we still have to promote the work that we have online.
You do.
While people are talking about ICE raids, we still have to figure out a way to email colleagues or pitch people via email or apply for jobs. You have to do all of this in the midst
You
of
still
what's
got to
happening.
work, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think like one of the things, one of my friends who actually is a mom, I put her in mom friend category. I said, yeah, I have this email that I've come up with, one sentence in my email where I've been telling people, oh my gosh, thank you so much. I don't say that, oh my gosh, like, thank you so much for your time. You know, with so much going on with the current political administration, I know it's often tough to respond to emails or to take time out of your day to whatever. I'm acknowledging what's happening in like one sentence instead of spewing out a bunch of emails without acknowledging anything. And I think people probably, I hope people appreciate that, because it feels crazy a bit sometimes to get professional and or personal correspondence where people like, hi, you like,
Yeah.
the world is burning, like we ain't gonna say nothing about it.
Yeah.
But I would say my friend circle, we talked about it, like you know, one of my dearest friends, she came to town in New York, we caught up and talked about everything from her dating life, but then shoot, we had a whole conversation about immigration.
Yeah, and you know, a lot of these topics can get kind of saucy. You know, for some people, politics is it's a deal killer. They don't talk about it. Sometimes it's
Really?
Oh yeah, you gotta understand.
I don't have any friends with it. I don't know. They don't talk politics.
I'm not just talking about friends too.
Okay.
You know, this can be colleagues,
Sure,
friends, yes. But you know, there are some friends that won't talk about politics. I got friends like that. And, you know, it's just what it is. And you know, they won't talk about it publicly. They won't talk about it even privately. It's just kind of a thing they either don't believe in or they just don't want to talk about it. Hey, for some people, topics like this is a deal killer. It can easily break up friendships.
I can see
it can cause you to leave certain groups. It can break up dinner parties. Like, this is a real thing. And what's going on right now, we have to be very mindful that, you know, certain topics around politics can be very polarizing for people.
Do you remember the time during Trump's first administration, we were vacationing, and the person's house we were vacationing at dinner, they were like, either they said we only get one chance to talk about Trump, or we couldn't talk about Trump at the table. And
you got to remind me of that trip.
Oh yeah, they were like, oh nope, I don't want to talk. Like, we couldn't talk about it, and it was like, we can't say nothing about it. I get it. People don't want.
That was 2016, huh? 2017.
I can't remember the year.
No, I can't remember that.
I can't remember the year, but it felt like,
it sounds familiar.
I was like, ooh, we can't talk about it. But I mean, you know, the dinner party went on, but I mean, I thought I was around pretty progressive Black people. It was all Black people there, I think. And I'm like, we can't have any conversation about it. I do think that adults who socialize a lot know how to pivot the conversation,
of course,
where the conversation doesn't take over. But
well, can you stay friends with people who don't agree with you politically? Because I got relatives who I don't agree with politically, but that's where the conversation has to be had, right? Because if you think about what's happened thus so far, there are people that we know, and you all know them, who did not have these conversations back in 2016, and we are where we are now, right? Because they love their family members, but they never challenged them politically. So the question is, well, can you stay friends with people who don't agree with you politically, especially around very hot political topics? How do you work through that? How do you live through that?
I'm sure there are plenty of people that I am friends or friendly with who are or in my circle in some ways that we don't have the same beliefs on certain things. I'm almost positive about that, and I'm still friends with them. I don't know if I can. I don't know if this is somebody I want to spend a lot of time with.
Agreed.
I don't know if this is somebody I necessarily want to continuously have in my personal space when they are spewing things that are homophobic or transphobic or
xenophobic, misogynist.
All of the things, all of the isms. I don't know how much time I want to spend with a person like that. I don't know how much time I want to spend with a person who can get behind what is happening in this country now with Trump and his goons. Can I love them? Sure.
Sure.
So the short answer to your question is, if somebody, particularly if you know me, I don't think nobody is bold enough to come up in my personal space and start talking that shit to me. And if they did, and
But
if
what
they
would you do?
I think if they did, I would nip it in the bud immediately. Like, hey,
Is that the right way to do that, though?
I wouldn't put them out, but I would nip it in the bud. Be like, listen, it's totally fair for you to have those views, but in here, I can't allow you to say those transphobic things. I can't allow you to say the fill in the blank things. I think I've said that to people before,
Right.
In a very nice way, and then they kind of like, who, what have you. But I honestly, I think most of the times they haven't been people and or family or friends that I'm around all the time.
So if somebody walk up to you and says something in the vein of slavery was a choice, yeah, I know what I'm talking about. Like, is that a deal killer?
I think I would.
If somebody says something,
when you said walk up to me, or we are,
you're friends with this person, and they say something like that, is that a deal killer?
I think my immediate reaction would be like, "What you just say?"
Or if they said something that was very anti-Semitic, anti-immigrant, right? Like something that's really foul. That is just kind of like cheechy, but something that's really, really foul.
Well,
okay. How about this? How about that? Where if they show up wearing the MAGA hat, or they show up wearing, some kind of Nazi paraphernalia, or they show up on
you're doing some extremes now.
But these are extreme times.
Okay.
That's where we at though.
Now there are people who are in my close circle who, I would say have not done the work or read enough about, LGBTQ or people's, being gay, lesbian, being non-binary.
Right.
So let me just say that again. The thing that I get all the time for a lot of people, they don't get the non-binary thing. I will tell you that comes up a lot.
It does. It comes up being the creative community.
Yeah, and I've had to push back on that. I wouldn't even say push back and be like, say straight up, like, why you care what somebody call themselves?
Right.
I'll do it in a way that's kind of not like calling them out. But I would say, like, I don't give a damn if somebody want to be called whatever they want to call. Just tell me what you want to be called, and I'm gonna call you that. Because that doesn't affect me, right? It doesn't affect me if someone decides to be non-binary and they want me to call them they. So, so when someone has this prolonged conversation about it, I'm like, that's really bothering you? And I just kind of nip it in the bud and say, for me, like, I wonder why that's bothering me, because it really doesn't bother me, because it doesn't affect me, It doesn't affect me. And I usually have like a one-liner about it and I move on. But if it continuously happens, I've said to someone, I've noticed, you're always like, you're bothered by that.
Right. Well, that's dialogue.
Yeah, we need to talk about that. So I have had that conversation with a handful of people. And from that point on, they'll just say, oh, that person is non-binary, or they want to go by they. Because I think a lot of times people never get called out. Now, so that is a little bit different. To me, that's about someone.
That's still political, though.
It is political, but I also think it's about someone who just hasn't thought, has been in a situation where they've had to think about it, or someone has challenged them. Now, if somebody came up,
I would
one
say
of my
this.
friends, I saw them in a MAGA hat.
Well, yeah, I mean, again, because that is real. That can happen. I've seen that happen over the last 6 years. People who you never would thought would wear that, and they have. People who will wear paraphernalia that was very polarizing, like certain kinds of symbols that are from a certain era that was very effed up, and they have. I've seen people wear Confederate flags that are so-called conscious. I know for me, when I run across people that are either close to me, family members, or somewhere in between, and we had these, like, I guess, polarizing points of views on certain topics. It could be as political as politics, all the way down to some culture around one's gender, to like, whatever in between. I try to understand why they're thinking that way, have a conversation, and refer them to books.
Yeah,
ignorance is that thing that usually comes from a place of people just not being educated about something.
I agree with that.
But ignorance also can come from an intentional choice that people just want to be dickheads and it's just gonna be that way. Now, at that point, you have to ask yourself, is this a relationship that you want to continue? Because if you stay in that relationship, then unfortunately you may be complicit in spreading their overall.
Yeah, the
message.
dickheads, I don't know. Ooh, that word sounds crazy.
Well, I can say that though, because you know what that means.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to continue to be in a relationship with them. I mean, like in friendship with them. Like if I am, there's a friend or someone that's a colleague or someone that I'm getting to know, and we are having a conversation about Minneapolis. And I've had a few conversations with people. They claim they don't know what's going on.
I didn't know what's going on.
Yeah, like, oh yeah, I haven't really been paying attention to the news. What happened?
They know what's going on.
And I'm just kind of like, huh?
I know what's going on.
You don't know what's going on?
But
like,
it goes back to what I said earlier. People are just kind of putting their head in the sand and willingly just purposely just kind of checking out.
I'm just like, huh? You don't know what's going on? That to me, I'm just like, okay, how can I say this? No judgment, but I don't think anyone in my friend circle that starts to say that, I really start side-eyeing you like, you ain't paying attention to what happened, especially here in New York City. You ain't paying attention to what's happening on the news. You don't know that Don Lemon got arrested today? Like, okay, what world you been in? You don't know that a journalist, like 4 journalists were arrested.
4 black journalists.
4 black journalists were arrested by the feds because Trump mad.
Yeah.
If you don't know that and you don't have an opinion about that, not even an opinion, if you don't know that and you know that that is straight up some fascist BS, and we friends, ooh.
Well,
I'm sorry. I got
yeah,
the heat start going through me then.
And then you got to ask
that
yourself,
concerns me.
It goes back to what I was saying. At some point, you got to ask yourself then. And this is something my father often taught me. Like, you know, if you're going to be that so-called real person, just be prepared to be real by yourself. Because a lot of times, brave people are typically by themselves. And what you may call a coward can potentially get you killed. And not killed actually, but metaphorically speaking. And I would just say, overall, if you're going to run across these type of scenarios, just consider it. It's okay to kind of like, hey, I don't need as big of a circle as I thought I did.
Yeah.
Maybe redefine what it means to have friends. I often tell you, hey, certain kinds of friends are good for certain kinds of things. You may just need a friend that can just make you laugh, even through times like this. Maybe you need a friend that can sit down and just want to listen to you just rant, because sometimes you just want people to hear you, right? You may say a bunch of things that maybe not so coherent. You just want somebody they can just hear you out for a second versus you just talking to yourself at a wall, right? And maybe you just got to redefine what it means to be close to certain people. But I do think that is a great way to like work through these times around these type of subjects.
I agree. I mean, listen, we've talked a lot about just do it. Invite new people over and have friends. I still 100 invite new people in your world. Invite them to dinner. I'm still with that.
Yeah. Conversation is good.
Yeah. But it is also okay to re-examine what category this person goes into your life. And then essentially that's what you just said, right?
Yeah.
Or to shake up the circle. Like, you know what? I want more fun friends that we can have a conversation about what's going on.
If nothing else,
and acknowledge
you can make fun of the situation. Because sometimes comedy allows you to work through some shit.
Yeah, I mean, I want someone where we can talk about what's going on. There's empathy. They know what's going on. And I'm like, girl, now let's order a bottle.
Right.
Let's order a bottle and have something to drink. You know what I'm saying? It's always good to have friends like that. And I want to talk about 2 things. Or we're going to talk about 2 things. Finding joy without guilt. And what can you do? Like literally, what can you do to move the needle? Because we all got to do a little something to move the needle forward.
You do.
And what can you do to find joy? Those are 2 things that we can do. As you say, it's a yes and.
It's a yes and.
It's a yes and. So, yeah, what are kind of the social activism things that we naturally do all the time in the Maroon House and outside of the Maroon House?
So again, for me, it's producing art, but it's the intent behind it. I like to educate people with facts. because facts could be boring, right? Facts are boring. Let's be very honest. Wikipedia is a very boring place. But if you can take facts and turn them into like nuggets of storytelling and kind of hit people with like narrative, animation, design, just overall just cool storytelling, I think that's a way that I personally like to get involved, is educating people about the facts, because there's so much misinformation everywhere. The facts are 100% important.
I mean, do we have to say voting? Because, we already know that you need to be voting. Okay.
You do.
All right. So just say it like, I just got one quick little anecdote to say. Do you remember the time we were at a dinner party and a guy told me, why do you even vote in New York? Because you already know it's a bunch of, what the city is going to be.
Yeah, but he was he was a cisgender white male that can just kind of not vote and don't affect him.
And I was
he wasn't understanding. He didn't understand the fact that you was a Southern black woman.
Well, let me just finish saying it. I said, "Are you suggesting I don't vote?" He was like, "Yeah, why? Who cares?" I was like, "Dude, I am from the American South. My mother did not vote until her senior year in high school in 1972, and her own mother never voted. Like, are you serious?" So, yeah, people need to be voting on a every election, locally, statewide. You need to vote. Period. Point blank, and you need to be in communication with your elected officials.
I think the ideal of voting in general is becoming a little, almost going away of the dinosaur if we're not too careful, because
I agree.
What's happening right now is that we got an administration that's actually telling people that it's not that important to vote, and they're making it. And it's funny because we've always had these arguments with people like, well, voting's not that important. If voting was that important, then why do people spend so much time raiding voting offices, ballot offices, or spending a lot of money making sure that you don't vote? Whatever you vote for. But I do think voting is a big, important thing. And giving context as to who you should vote for and why, right?
Yeah, and I went with this. I'm sorry. We're going a little long. We've tried to keep the podcast short, but we got to go long. Yeah, some of my friends were like, some of my friends I love were like, You're voting for Kamala? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, yeah, I'm voting for Kamala. They were like, how dare you? All the reasons, such as, her stance on Israel and Palestine. So many things. She said, she locked up so many brothers. All the things that, listen, I'm okay with having a conversation that she wasn't perfect, but I'm like, I'm not voting no third party. Like, yo, we gonna mess around and Trump gonna be president again.
Yeah.
Boom.
Wow.
No, I'm voting for the greater good of the country. I would have loved to have voted for anybody else. I'm not gonna say anybody else because I actually thought that Kamala was overqualified and qualified to do the job, but there wasn't a third party candidate, excuse me, Jill Stein, that I felt like or anybody I could write in at the moment. So yes, I think voting is still an effective tool at this point. I don't know what it's going to be in the next 3 years, but I think it's on a local level here in New York City. We just got a brand new mayor. That right there gives me hope that on a local level that things are possible.
What about teaching your kids?
Oh, super important. I'm proud that I have a video of Garvey in the Uber. He said, Kamala Harris, she's the black lady that ran for president. She's running for president. I was like, I didn't tell him that. Kids, listen, they pick up on things, and be it good or bad, and it's our job to take it even further. I'm so lucky that Garvey attends a New York City public school that had a conversation with them today about the definition of a strike. They didn't go deep into talking about ICE and what was going on, but he understands a strike. He asked, could we go to the strike? What is a protest? And it's super important that in your home that kids have visuals, either books, either artwork, zines, to these words that you've introduced to them, these things around activism, that they actually get to see and read them and take them to stuff.
Yeah. I mean,
we've taken the garbage to.
You gotta take them to things. You also gotta show them cool content on YouTube because that's where they live. But I do like to take a kid somewhere and learn. That's how I learn.
Yeah, they get to see it in the flesh. I took Garvey to see Ruth Oshawa, who is a beautiful artist, Japanese artist who spent time in an internment camp. And Garvey got a book about it. They talk about the internment camps. We went the moment and saw it. Now, I think he fully understands what an internment camp is?
No, but
he has a book that talks about it. And hopefully 5 or 6 years from now, he's going to be like, oh, internment camp. Okay, this is similar to, or wow, this happened in America, that he'll be appalled. So you got to expose your kids to the word activism, and they got to see it in the flesh. They got to read about it.
They got to see it practice.
And they got to connect it
they gotta see it
in their
practice. Home
and outside of their home.
I remember being a young homie in Atlanta. And I think I've said this before to on previous pods, even with you. My family, it'd be, you're talking like anywhere from 6 to 8 people at any given time. We would go to the BCN or, the BCN bookstore in the West End of Atlanta.
You got to say what the BCN is.
Oh, the Black Christian and Nationalist church group, right? My dad was a member at one point in time. Long story short, that bookstore was just infamous for like all these beautiful books and writers that would come through. We've seen a lot of
Shrine of the Black
Madonna. Shrine of the Black Madonna. We would go to the bookstore and we see a lot of Black writers come and, talk about their books. But one particular writer I saw as a young kid was Alice Walker. Now, you talking, I had to been like maybe 10, maybe 9. Seeing Alice Walker was definitely one of those things, aha moment, because I still remember that moment.
Yeah.
So I do think when you take kids to go see things in real life, that's always going to be much more enriching and just life changing for them.
Yeah. Activism. There's so many ways to be an activist or to in your own way, right?
Right.
And I also say this, you've heard me say this many times. The true activists don't never say, I'm an activist.
Nah.
They just out there doing the work.
They're just doing the work.
Anybody who introduced themselves as an activist, I side eye them because your activism, your personal activism, in my opinion, it should just be a part of who you are in your daily life. And you don't have to talk about it. It is what it is.
Right.
But finding joy, how do you find joy when you've done all the things that we should be doing to push the needle of equality and justice? How do you be like, "Ooh, Lord, you've done all the things," and you're like, "Ooh, I gotta do something for myself. I want to unwind." What, Adrian, is the one thing you plan on doing in the next few weeks to bring a little joy without feeling guilty, knowing that this upside down world probably will still be around? What's the one thing that you're gonna do for yourself? I'm gonna feel guilty about it.
Probably gonna go to a concert or a dance party.
Okay, so my one thing, Adrian, what's the one thing I plan on doing? I want to find more time to do acupuncture. So that's the one thing. I'm going to lean into self-care on my body. Haircuts, acupuncture, petty mani. That's what I'm going to do. So, guys, I just want to say this. Take care.
Take care. Be easy. Stay well, people. And, till next time, we'll catch up and hope you guys are, just working through this the best way you can.
Thanks for tuning in to The Maroon Life, where creativity meets culture and joy. Part of the Caffeine Media Network. Follow us on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you listen.